Welcome, welcome, welcome to another edition of the Red Hot Mic. So you know how we like to do. First, before I get started, I'd like to introduce my co-host, Mr. Hedy Lamar, who always holds my hat. He wants to keep it, but I told him I'm the cat in the hat. He's not. So let's do it like this. Let's get something going in here. Welcome. It's the Red Hot Mic. I'm your host, G. Alpha Palmer. I am the host, and here's a toast to you. Come on. Come on in this house. Come on in this house. This is how we do. Come on.
It's the Red Hot Mic. Come on. Come on.
It's the Red Hot Mic. Come on. I need you to subscribe to this station. Subscribe to this channel. Like and share. Hit that notification bell. Come on. It's the Red Hot Mic with G. Alpha Palmer, your host with the most. Come on. Yeah. That's how we do on the Red Hot Mic. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here for another edition of the Red Hot Mic. And we got a topic tonight. It's called the Smith Syndrome. Yeah, I'm not done with it yet. Come on. Oh, yeah. Come on in this house. It's the Red Hot Mic. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Come on. Woo! Is that an 808? Come on. Woo! Come on. Come on in here. Get out of here. The wolf's gonna get you. Come on in this house. Come on. Woo! It's the Red Hot Mic with yours truly. Come on. Let's get started. Woo!
In our current global climate, we're facing challenges never before experienced by this generation. Oppositions where no one seems to have clear directions or answers to the risks facing us. Confrontations like racial and gender unrest, political gerrymandering, toxic leadership, economic crisis, global pandemic, health threats, pre-existing medical conditions, isolation, boredom, and loneliness are driving people to desperation. As a result, people are confused, afraid, anxious, and perplexed, and they need answers to some tough questions and even tougher situations. They are looking into different outlets for answers to gain assurance and consolation. Some have drawn closer to the embrace of family, while others look more towards their friendships, education, and even religion. What we need is a fresh voice of truth and clarity, and not a stale religious echo from the past. There's a re-emerging voice on the horizon that isn't afraid to stand alone and give spiritual and mentally sound direction to a world searching for answers. G. Alfred Palmer offers a voice of sound human development and empowerment to those willing to hear. There's a need for new ideas to old principles, a perspective from a timeless origin, but with current vision, a thought leader who understands what it means to stand alone and speak truth when some are hard of hearing. But if you've been waiting to hear a voice that opens the gates of freedom and breaks the shackles of confusion to allow you to step forward into the dawning of a new and exciting future, then it's time to bridge the gap with Dr. G. Alfred Palmer. He is a dynamic speaker, thought leader, and entrepreneur, equipped to elevate, expand, and extend the development, empowerment, and leadership of his audiences. He stands ready to speak at your next event. His delivery is guaranteed to refresh, entertain, and transform. G. Alfred Palmer bridges the gap from uncertainty to the purpose, to passion, and leadership. Book him today for your next event, and you won't be disappointed.
Thank you. Thank you for another edition of the Cat in the Hat. Gotta get this thing the way I like it. Thank you. All right. Let's get on with it. I am ready to get started. Are you ready to get started? I'm ready to get started. Are you ready to get started? Are you ready to ruminate? Are you ready to elevate? And are you ready to activate? Because once again, it's the Red Hot Mike, and we coming with some hot stuff today. Now, listen, I know some people say, well, I've heard enough about Will Smith and Chris Rock. I've had enough of it. But here's the thing that we've got to understand. It's really not about Will. It's really not about Chris. It's really not about anybody else. Not really, not directly, not individually. It's about us as humanity and how we can grow, how we can elevate, how we can extend and expand. We have to be able to do that. In order to do that, we have to have examples, living examples of what is out there. And it's not because of them. It's not because of them being bad people. No, they're human. And as we all are human, but we still need to learn how to grow. We've still got to learn how to mature. We've got to learn to develop. And there's reasons for that, because purpose calls for us to be able to do certain things. Now, this is going to be a little rough. It's going to be a little rough tonight, but we're going to do the best we can to the old song, a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. So we're going to try to be as much as possible, as considerate as possible, but at the same time, being very intentional in what we are doing. Now, I know so many people want to talk about how we need to mind our business and let people live their own lives. What you fail to realize is that we're here to serve. We're here to serve each other and one another, and we're not here to just live. The people that here just live are the ones that have a life that misses something. It lacks something, because what we're sent here to do is to serve. And to serve means to deny self at the expense of others. Now, that's important to understand, but at the same token, we don't abuse, but we allow ourselves to be used. Not by people, but by the Creator and by the universe. So, I don't like this handkerchief. It's too much. Okay, thank you. Somebody should say that to me. I'm going to talk about the Oscar night again, but I'm going to do it a little bit different. Understand this. I've been talking about human development for some time now. And so it's not that I'm changing my direction. I'm not. I'm staying exactly on course where I have been. But what is happening is life or art has imitated life and brought it right into scope of what I've been talking about. So I'm going to use these examples. And it's not to denigrate them as individuals, because we all have areas. We all have areas that we need to grow in. We all have areas in which we are not our best. We are not our best. We lack certain things. We lack certain things that in our developmental processes. We lack mental development. We lack cognitive development. We lack psychological development, emotional development. We lack philosophical development, psychological development, intellectual development, physiological development, and chronological development. The last two, we probably have no problem with those, because those are ones that are pretty much out of our control. Your body's gonna change and you're gonna get old. So those two go without saying. But the other six are very, very important and play a very important role in what we've seen transpire at the Oscars. What we've seen transpire at the Oscars is something that is very meaningful and useful to our growing, our developing. Now, the thing is, we don't put them down, but we do identify not the person, but the behavior, because the behavior is what we are talking about, because behavior comes from paradigm, ways of thinking, cognitions, comes from psychological development, mental development, or the lack thereof, right? So these kinds of things are very much a part of the equation when we start talking about how we can grow, how we can extend, expand, and elevate. But what we've got to do is be willing to listen. Some people want to, leave those people alone. It has nothing to do with those people. That's the problem. You think that it's about them, but it really is about you. It's really about you and me. It's about us as humanity growing. What we want to do is let everybody just do their own thing, and no one challenge or charge or cause them to change where the direction they're going. If someone's going straight to off of a bridge, so what you're saying is just let them go. No, we don't do that. We don't do that. We rescue those that we can. And those that choose to continue along that path, at least we can look ourselves in the mirror and say that we have tried to do our best to change their course, to change their way of thinking. But if we don't do anything, you can't expect anyone to do anything for you. But that's what we want. We want people to just not say anything to me. Mind your business. Well, we are each other's business. We are in the people business. And it's important that we understand that. Now, this is going to be rough, but it's something that needs to be spoken about. I'm going to do one half as much as I possibly can in this session, and the other half in the other one, because I want to talk about the Smith syndrome. Now, when I talk about the Smith syndrome, what I'm talking about is the developmental processes of Will Smith, or in layman's terms, masculine development. So I'm talking about masculine development. I'm talking about how we as masculine entities are to develop in this place called life. Now, I'm going to use Will because this is what's been given to us as an example in this hour in which we live. But Will is no different from anyone else. We've all have areas in life that our development isn't where it needs to be. But I'm going to use Will as an object lesson, but I'm not talking about Will. I'm talking about you and I. I'm talking about us. And tonight I'm talking about masculine development. Masculine development. Now, the first thing we've got to understand again and again is that there's 3 stages in masculine development. There's boys, there's males, and there's men. And in each one, there's 8, but 6 that we have more control over. And I just mentioned at the outset that we have control over in our ability to grow, to extend, to elevate, and to expand. And so in those areas, we can do some things. We can make some changes, but we can't stop from getting older. We can't stop from getting older as far as chronological development. We can't. You're going to get older, right? Physiologically, your body is going to change. It's going to develop, or it's going to lack development, right? So those 2 things we know we can't control, but the other 6 we can. We can control our emotional, cognitive, mental, intellectual, psychological, and philosophical and intellectual. We can. I might have mentioned intellectual twice, but we have the ability to arrest those and to begin to mold them and shape them if we choose to. So it's important that we understand that these 3 stages has within them 8 elements that 6 of which we have control of, that we can use and we can develop. Because when we came here as boys, we were blank slates. Our fathers, our parents, our mothers were the ones that were the software developers who were the ones who were to upload in us to our mainframe the information that was needed for us to survive, to thrive in this life. But some of us have run across some very, very trying times, situations that have occurred, significant emotional events that have taken place in our lives. And these significant emotional events have scarred us. They have left a mark on our lives. When I talk to my patients, I talk to them about what we call dealing with these significant emotional events, which we call memory mapping, because that's what these are. These are memories that have marked our life, and there is a map of them. And what we have to do is to identify and address them. And to once we identify and address them and deal with them, we're better able to develop further in whatever process that was holding us back in. So it's not about just living life. You're sent here to do something. You're sent here to accomplish something. And it's not just to just live your life, buy a house, buy cars, and do those kinds of things. No, we're sent here to make a difference. And it's because of people not wanting to make a difference that we see our culture in the way that we do. People are not concerned about one another. We'll let them do whatever they want. We'll let them drive off the cliff and not say anything. Just look at him, laugh at him, and talk about how silly he looks driving off a cliff. When you were stationed, put at that very place, in that very space, in that very time, out of all the places that you could have been, you were there. And you could have effected a change, but chose not to, but chose rather to make fun of someone. And some folks think that that's what I do, is no, I challenge you. I charge you. And hopefully some change. If not, that's not my job. My job is to do my assignment. If you fulfill your assignment, everything else is not up to you. It's up to the universe. It's up to the creator. It's up to the Great Spirit. It's up to Nirvana. It's up to God to make the changes. But you are the vessel that is to be used to demonstrate or to speak what needs to be said. But if we don't do it, then we see what we're seeing transpiring around us. Now, when we start talking about significant emotional events, notice what it is. It's emotional events. Emotional. So what's important to understand is that out of all of the developmental processes that we talked about, those 8, one of the most charged ones is the emotional development. Emotional development, especially in this day and age, because what we're seeing in this day and age is an overemphasis on emotionalism, to the point they have developed a methodology to address emotionalism. It's called emotional intelligence, where they're really trying to unite and put together 2 of the paradigms that we've been talking about. They're trying to put intellectual and they're trying to put emotional development together. It's and we're going to talk about emotional intelligence as we go along. But what we've got to understand is these significant emotional events that take place in our life, they mark us. And in those markings, or in those places, there is some type of emotional trance. The best thing I can say is it's a stumbling. It's a where we just stop and we sit down and we mull and we and it causes us to stunt. That's the word I'm looking for. We're stunted in that area that it approaches and it addresses. Now let's use will for example. Again, we're using will as an object lesson, but not because of what happened the other night. But everyone is aware of what happened, and so Will is here to help us. He's here to help us. Okay, so I read Will Smith's book, and he talks about some things in the book, but there are a few things that really stuck out with me. And one is that his relationship with his father. His father was called Daddy-O, and Daddy-O was from the old school. Daddy-O was a very misogynistic man, but most were in that day, because that's what operated, and that was how most men operated, because that the whole idea of the alpha male reigned and ruled with supreme. And understand that the alpha male is still just that, a male. He's still not a man. But these men, these males operated that way in those days. Will Smith's father operated that way. And he talks about his father beating on his mother. And one particular time that his father punched his mother in the face and drew blood. And it stunned him. He was stunned there. He sat down there emotionally. He was arrested there. Significant emotional event. And so the emotional piece gripped him, and as a result, it caused his growth to be stunted. It happens to all of us. It really does. It happens to all of us. So this particular event had scarred Will his whole life. He carried it his whole life, to the point that he admitted that when his father was in his last days and he was helping his father, who was too weak to make it to the bathroom, he was taking his father to the bathroom, and Will said that he thought about throwing his father down the steps as recompense and repercussion for what he did over those decades and decades ago. That goes to show you how emotionally scarred some of us are. We are scarred emotionally by significant emotional events that happen. Now, what I do is to help people map those things, and there's a process that we do in purposeology to help you map the significant emotional events and map those memories. We call it memory mapping, and we help you to resolve those issues and to be set free from them, emotionally, cognitively, mentally, and intellectually, free from them. Okay. Now, so Will, like so many of us, suffered abuse at the hands of his father. His family suffered abuse. And it's amazing that men in that day did a lot of that abusing. Another individual that comes to mind is Michael Jackson, who talked about often that his father was very abusive. Now, we've got to understand, we can't hold those men to that, because people do the best that they can with what they know and what they've been given. They've done the best that they could. But the one thing that you could see is in both instances, these men stuck by their families for the most part. Okay. And so it's important to understand that there are going to be areas in your life that you may be able to identify with Will. You may be able to identify with abuse. The abuse not only from a parent, but from a loved one, or a significant other, or a partner, or a husband or a wife, someone, a sibling that abused you in some shape, form, or fashion. To abuse means it's actually two words, and it means to abnormally use. And to abnormally use something is to use it against its originally purpose and intent. And when we do that, we misuse that particular thing. So some of us have been misused. I dare say we all have been in some shape, form, or fashion in life. We're more alike than we are different. We want to make ourselves different. We want to make ourselves as if we are unique, and we are. But our experiences are the same. We experience the same kinds of things. So Will experience abuse. So many of us also experience abuse. Another thing that Will experience that we can identify with is that he grew up and he had a romantic kindling towards a member of a rap group called Salt-N-Pepa. He was digging on Pepper, but Pepper was not digging on him because she thought Will was too square. She wanted more hood. Sound familiar? Sound familiar? She wanted hood. But I tell you what, I bet you to this day, Pepper regrets the opportunity that she had to be with one of the most charismatic, most sought after, and talented and gifted men on the planet. But she forsook that. And so, brothers, there a lot of them have forsook you. Oh yeah, they chose somebody else over you. You know what that's called? Rejection. We all have experienced rejection, right? Will was rejected, but you have been too. You have experienced rejection. But it's in rejection that we are to learn some things about ourselves. We have to learn about self-esteem and self-image. We have to learn about building ourselves up. We have to learn about pride. We have to learn about ego. We have to learn about us cognitively, mentally. We have to learn about ourselves emotionally and intellectually. We have to learn about ourselves psychologically, right? We have to learn about ourselves. And as we learn about ourselves, we're able to see that was abuse by my father, but I was only 9 years old. It wasn't my fault, right? I was rejected by her, but she wasn't meant for me anyway, right? So we learn as we develop. If we develop, but what some of us do, we get angry, and that's one of the emotions that everything becomes anger or mad. I'm mad, which is not even an emotion. Okay, it's a mode of thinking, right? It's a cognition. But anyway, so Will, like many of us, experience abuse. He also experienced rejection. right? What else? What else? What else? Oh, okay. Let's look at this about Will. Will had a not so good relationship with Tupac Shakur. Tupac Shakur was his wife's boyfriend. And no need, it goes without saying, but I will say it, that there was a sense of competition there. And not only of competition, of comparison and contrast. And some of that was done by Jada, believe me, it was. Because the comparison and contrast would have Will do things that were really outside of his demeanor, because he was born and raised in West Philadelphia, but yet Jada and Tupac resided and lived in Park Heights, Baltimore, Maryland. Two different environments. Believe me, I've been in both. Okay, so in Park Heights, wow, it's a rough. Well, I'm not saying West Philadelphia isn't, because it is. But if I was going to say which one is which, I say Park Heights. I'd say Park Heights is a little bit rougher, especially more rougher than in some parts of West Philadelphia. But so the whole idea of Jada and Tupac having that kindling together was something that Will Smith was left on the outside of, that competition. So he found himself trying to measure up, even in his rap game. But Will stayed true to his brand and not get into gangster rap, but Tupac was in the gangster rap. But yet there was a comparison and the contrast of rapping styles. Now, which one do you think Jada preferred? Being from Baltimore, I would probably say more like gangster, more like Tupac. Now, here's what made it even more difficult for Will, and it makes it difficult for some of us. Sometimes we are held to a standard of someone that we cannot live up to. Will could never be Tupac. And what made it even more difficult was Tupac dying. You cannot surpass the standard of someone who's already died, who holds a place of great esteem with someone that means a whole lot to you. You can never win that. You can never beat that. You have to understand that that's a comparison, that a competition that you should not get into, because you cannot win. So Tupac, he died. He was killed. And so there's some that believe that, the only way that Will could have topped it was to go out and die. And there are females out there that would prefer you to do that. Just that. But you've got to understand that you're not looking, gentlemen, you're not looking for females. You're looking for women. There's a distinct difference. Women are developed in the 8 areas that we've talked about. She is a lady among ladies. Her femininity takes front stage. And the femininity is not sexual. No, it's not sexual. That's female. Because female, if you look at the stages of development, within the stage of development of the female, at the age of between 10 and 15, one of the characteristics that she learns is sexuality and the importance of how sexuality gets her what she wants. This is a part of a female mindset. She learns that sexuality gets her what she wants. It is also a means of protecting and keeping her safe, because that's what they do. They're looking to keep themselves safe. But it's what we've got to understand is that the whole idea of the female is that she wants to survive, and she'll do whatever necessary to do that at the expense of any and everyone. So there will be females that will use you. There will be females that will abuse you. There are females that will misuse you. But you've got to understand and identify females from the very outset. Now, getting back to Tupac, the whole idea of competition, competing is part of manhood. It's actually a part of malehood, and it helps us to transition into manhood, because competition helps us to establish ourselves and gives us position and gives us status once we move into manhood. But competition is a malehood characteristic. And in that competition, there is misogyny, right? There is misogyny in that particular stage. So yes, the men are going to be misogynistic. They're not even men, excuse me. The males will be misogynistic because that's a part of their growing process. So the competition between Tupac and Will could have been healthy, but I think that it was used by Jada in a negative way. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Now, the other thing that we need to talk about is that Will's relationship with his parents affected how he saw competition. Will, because of what happened with his father and him feeling that he was not able, he was less than because he wasn't able to protect his mother. He's always felt that way, and so that feeling of less than always drove Will. There's always going to be some emotion that's going to drive you, whether it's guilt, shame, poverty, low self-esteem, overweight, unattractiveness, whatever it is there's going to be something. And what we've got to learn to do, like Will did, is to use that very thing to drive us to success. What many of us have done is taken it and used it, and we've used it as a tool of anger and animosity, and we used it to carry out what we thought was justice on everybody and anybody who would do that to us. But what Will did was he took it and he channeled it, at least until the other night. So competition in the rap game, competition for the affections of the same female, competition on the movie screen, competition. It's amazing. So we talked about abuse. We talked about not only abuse, we talked about rejection. We've talked about competition. Okay. Now, another one that what I want to talk about may sound a little bit like competition, but it's not totally competition. It's submission. Submission. Men, there are males who will submit to things. Now, what Will Smith submitted to was he submitted to August Alsina being with his wife. For whether it was because he wanted or she wanted, but the bottom line is August Alsina said that Will was in agreement. So Will submitted to something that was outside of the scope of his masculinity. Now the question is, have you done that? And if you have, gentlemen, what areas have you given yourself over to submission, not in a positive sense, but in a negative sense, against something that was rightfully yours? Rightfully yours. Now, he doesn't own Jada, but it's rightfully his in the sense of them being husband and wife. Right? Okay. Submission is a very important process to be able to have in life. But submission has to be first to the Creator. First to the Creator. And if you have submission to the Creator, that means sometimes you're going to stand alone. But you've got to be willing to stand alone. And stand there if you know where you're standing is where the Creator would have you stand. You don't submit. You don't give in because this person is unhappy or that person wants what you have and this person is jealous or this person doesn't think that you deserve what you have. And that's what happened with Will. Will was around a lot of people that really, really were envious and jealous of what he was experiencing, his success, his gifting, his talent, his anointing made people jealous. People close to him, very close to him. And so what do we do when we have this kind of things coming against us? We've got to understand where it's our true submission lies. And be willing to stand alone and be alone if necessary. Then to have someone to cause you to submit against everything that you are as an individual. Now, August Alsina, and I was told the other day, well, Will and Jada had an open marriage. Well, okay, but relationships are dependent on the people that are in them. So whatever Will and Jada's relationship was, is their business. So the bottom line is the relationship what is the relationship that you're in? How have you worked out? Because there are some people that have those. I'm not saying it's wrong, right or wrong. It's not something that I would do, but there are people that would do that. And so being that they want to do that, that's fine for them. As long as they're happy. But if you understand this, you're hurting people. You're hurting people. I listened to a young lady talk about a relationship that she was having with one of the singers from Boyz II Men, and how he was married, but she was a side chick for years, decades, and she knew he was married. He called her on the day of their wedding and asked her if she was all right with him getting married. That's male stuff. Men don't do that. That's not how men operate. Males operate that way. See, we've got to understand the difference between boyhood, malehood, and manhood. Men do not operate that way. And they'll use religion to try to convince you that that's the right thing to do. No, it's not. No, it's not. You're to grow, leave your father and mother, and cleave to a wife. Okay? Sure, there's going to be trials and tribulations. That's part of life. Right? That's part of life. But anyway, August Alsina, competition, submission, issues of submission. As when we talk about submission, a lot of males want females to submit, and that's because we really don't understand what true submission is all about. True submission is not submitting to a person. True submission is submitting to an idea, to a right idea. And a right idea is not gender specific. An idea that is right is an idea that is right. And you choose that idea because it's right, not because it came from a man or not because it came from a woman. You choose that idea because it's the right idea. Okay. So when we talk about this whole thing around submission, we've got to gain a right idea of what it is and implement it accordingly in our relationships. Because right now, this idea of submission is not working because it is not accurate. And if I was any woman, I wouldn't submit to it either. Because it's not right. It's not right. Now, what is right? Right is that which is legal and that which is legitimate and that which is in concert and in harmony with the elements, with life, harmonious. It rides and it frequency is identical. So that's what we're looking for. You want to submit in those kinds of ways. But what we're doing now is we're trying to force someone to do something. You can't force people, nor should you want to. No, there's plenty of people out there. Find someone that's willing to submit to you, willing to be what you're looking for, because they were made for you. But so many of us are with folks that are not for us. And I believe that Will and Jada were not meant for each other. I really do believe that. But there are so many others of us are like that. Not meant for each other. And so that's the last piece I want to talk about. I want to talk about the Jada piece, and I call it the Jada principle. I think that's what I call that. Anyway, Jada, is she a partner or a wife? Is she a partner or a wife? So many women, I take it back. Females are looking for partnerships. They're not looking for marriage, because a marriage is a union between two becoming one. But a partnership is two different people, two individuals who come together with a business opportunity. And each one has responsibilities within the relationship. If one doesn't hold up their responsibility, the other one has a right to end the relationship. That's modern day marriage. It's not a union, it's a business proposition. And if it doesn't work, we'll go somewhere else. How many times Kim Kardashian has been married? But she's rich. But not everyone's going to end up like Kim Kardashian. And I dare say Kim Kardashian's end may not be as good as it may appear. But the bottom line is this. A woman and a wife are the same. In the Hebrew language and in the Latin, the word woman and wife are the same. To be a woman means that you're capable of being a wife. And if you're a wife, you're capable of, because you're a woman. Females are neither a wife nor women. They're females. Because a wife and a woman are the same thing. So that means that if a wife is a woman, that means a woman is developed in the areas that we talked about: emotionally, cognitively, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, philosophically, physiologically, and what's the last one is chronologically. Okay. So she's developed in those areas, whereas females are not. Now, I would say this to you. You've been in relationships, fellas, with females and not women. And you've chosen these females based on things that you like, mainly because we're visual. So we've chosen a lot of these females based on physical appeal. Now, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying that there are very attractive women that are out there that are full-blown women, respectful, honoring, right? That understand submission and understand what it means to be in union. Those are I hear people ask the question, what do you bring to the table? What do you bring to the table? Listen, this is what you need to look for bringing to the table. And this is what you need to bring to the table. Lean in for this one. Lean into this. Because if you lean into this will change your life. What you got to bring to the table is purpose. purpose. And that purpose on the other side of that table needs to be in concert with yours. And if it's not, keep it moving. Keep it moving. If you look at Jada and Will, they don't match. They don't match. I hear people say, well, opposites attract. They do attract. They do attract. That don't mean that they're supposed to stay together. Just because they attract. Attraction, I see attractive women every day. Just because she's attractive doesn't mean that you have to lose your freaking mind. You don't. You acknowledge that she's attractive. It's okay. Acknowledge that and keep it moving. Yeah, keep it moving. But listen, before I go, I want to talk about another piece that's I believe that's very, very important. And I call it the cruise system or the cruise syndrome. And here's what it is. It stands for Chris Rock. It's acrostic. Chris Rock. How did I say it? Chris Rock's entanglement with Will Smith. CREWWS. Cruise syndrome. And what we have in the cruise syndrome is what we saw transpire at the Oscars. And this is what we see on social media. What we see in social media. We see these Captain Saver ho that want and will go to any and every extent to try to rescue a female. You cannot rescue a female. Gentlemen, you cannot. The only way that you can satisfy a female is that you die doing whatever she wants you to do. That's what a female wants. I was listening to a broadcast of a very heady brother. I'm not sure where he's from, on one of the YouTube stations. He was talking about what we're seeing, this black man on black man violence, because that's what we saw at the Oscars. And what happened was this young man who just came from Jamaica, Haiti, somewhere, I think it was Haiti, was standing in line in Popeyes to get served. And so this female comes in and jumps in front of him. And so he protests to the point that she goes out and gets her boyfriend. See, this is what females do. They will put you in situations that will jeopardize your brand, your life, your income. Hello, somebody. Is that not what happened the other night? Is that not what happened the other night? Well, let me finish the story. So the young man who was in the line began, I guess he got his order filled, I'm not sure, but he left. 2 blocks later, the man came and killed him, shot him down because of a female. Because of a female. Now a man's life is gone because of a female, and another man's life is gone because he's going to prison for the rest of his life. Now, what is going to happen to her? She's going to go out and find another simp like she just had, and have him do her dirty work too. You've got to leave females alone. There are plenty of women out there, gentlemen. There are good women out there, mature, intelligent, but you've got to find one in sync with your purpose. But you've got to find purpose in order for you to be able to find her. You can't find her without knowing what you're supposed to be doing, because there is a female and there is a masculine purpose that comes together. The two of you belong together, but it's not because she's fine. She has a big rear end or big breast. She has a cute face. He's got big muscles. No, he has the yin to your yang relative to purpose. Because when the booty's gone and the look and the muscles fade, what do you have then? But if you have purpose, you have something to join you for a lifetime. I hope that makes sense to you. So, gentlemen, we've got to stop letting females put batteries in our back and causing us to do things that's going to jeopardize our future. If a female will have sex with your son's friend, that is not a wife. That is not a woman. That is a female. And if you can't see that, you are not a man. You are a male. It's you being stuck in your maleness that causes you to be drawn to her femaleness. And when you come across a woman, you're intimidated. You know why you're intimidated? Because in the 8 areas where you lack, she is fully grown and matured. And because of that, you feel inept in her presence. You feel like you're less than because you are. Because you haven't worked on yourself. The best thing a man could do is find purpose. That's the best thing you could do for yourself. Find purpose. Well, I could go on, but I want to talk about the other side of this the next session. I want to talk about the Jada Smith syndrome, because we just talked about the Will Smith syndrome. I want to talk about the Jada Smith syndrome. We talked a little bit about it tonight, but I want to talk about it a little bit further. I hope you got something out of that, because again, it's not to put the Smiths on blast. That's not the intent. The intent is for us to understand that we all have stuff that we've gone through. And the stuff that we've gone through has either helped or hindered our development. In some areas, things that Will went through helped him. In other things, it didn't. Will felt like he had to prove himself to be Tupac. And he had to be gangster and go up and slap a man 50 pounds lighter than him in front of millions of people. I know he regrets it with every fiber of his being, but he allowed a female to put a battery in his back with a glint, with a glare, and with a look, and cause him to fall on his own sword in front of us all. The best thing that Will can do is leave that relationship. That's the truth. He needs to leave that relationship. I said it, and I mean it. It's not healthy. Look at what it's done. Look at what it's done to him. If it's better to be alone than to be with someone that is going to hurt you. And listen, physical punches aren't always the ones that hurt the most. There's other ways. Words can be very, very powerful. Women are very artistic when it comes to words. Insults, shaming, insults, guilt-ridden, and name-calling. They're very good at it. Very good at it. But why would you want to be with someone that would do that? Gentlemen, why would you want to be with someone that does that? There's women out there that will honor you. They will honor you. She may not have everything you're looking for, but she has the equipment that you need. She has the equipment that you need. Well, that's it for this session. I hope you enjoyed it. I did. And as usual, you know how I like to do what I do. It's time to just have a little fun, because fun is what life should be. Fun. It should be fun. I mean, not everything should be serious. I think my battery is almost gone here. I think we got Thank you for joining me. Cheers to you. And here's to you, growing, extending, elevating, and expanding to be the best you that you could ever be. Cheers. Until the next time, peace.